Jay here for Stretford, Paddock. This is the Brew. Now, first of all, we're going to get into something here because some of you may have noticed that we are missing someone. Mr. Stephen Howson has just got a bit of man flu, so he's just had to go home. Yes, Mr. Stephen Howson, the man who's, served more tours than G.I. Joe, he's a bit poorly sick and he's had to go home. And he's absolutely gutted because we've got a very, very special guest today. We've got Joe Sealey, the son of Les Sealey, who is, an absolute cult hero at Manchester United. And he's certainly a cult hero on this show because you may have noticed, and I spoke to you about this, Joe, we talk a little bit about the 1991 Cup Winners' Cup final.
I know you do, yeah.
Yeah, where your dad played an absolute blinder and helped Manchester United win what we class as the greatest achievement in the history of association football. And it's great to meet you finally because me and you've spoken. How's it going? How are you?
Yeah, I mean, it's Friday.
Yeah,
so it can't be that bad, can it? And I'm here. So it can't, it's been worse days, isn't there?
There has been worse days. And also, I shouldn't just say you're, the son of Joe Sealey, because that's not, son of Les Sealey, because that's not doing you justice, because you're also the husband of Nicole.
I am. Like I said to you, my business partner says to me, I'm known for two things. I'm Les Sealey's son and Nicole Sealey's husband. And then that's it. That's all anyone wants to know. Yeah, it's true.
And those of you that watch The Real Housewives of Cheshire will know all about that. My missus knows all about it. She loves that show. And we all watch it, actually, don't we, producer Ethan? He's seen.
I've seen you outside when we're filming.
Do get involved in the chat in the comments. We are going to be talking about, obviously, your dad, a little bit more about yourself and what you've been up to as well. And we might, we might even talk a little bit about Manchester United and what's going on currently, but we don't want to depress us all. Loads of people in the comments already. Joe, me and you were chatting the other day.
Yeah.
And you mentioned about this book. Now, this is, if you go to my single, see that on days like these, the lost memoir of a goalkeeper, and this is by Tim Rich, and it's got a foreword by Harry Redknapp. Harry Redknapp, who I had the pleasure of meeting once, is just a lovely guy.
He's a great man.
Yeah, lovely, absolutely, salt of the earth bloke. Now, this is obviously, a book about your dad. Now, it's called The Lost Memoir of a Goalkeeper.
Yeah.
Just tell us a little bit about that, because that is like actually what it is.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's a true story. In 2014, I was standing on the side of a pitch watching my 12-year-old son play for Manchester United Academy. And I looked down the line and I recognised the guy who was my Sunday morning football manager when I was 10. Right. So it's been a long time. I walked over to him and I said, "Are you Les Clifford?" And he said, "Yeah." So it's Joe Sealey, how are you? Blah, blah, chatting away. And he went, "I've got your dad's book." I said, "My dad never did a book." He said, "He did." He said, "Come to my house." So I went to his house on the Monday in Poynton. He went up in his loft and he brought down a packed lunchbox full of cassette tapes and a word processor manuscript that he'd wrote in 1994 with my dad. I didn't know about it.
That sucks.
It was amazing. And then I didn't know what to do with it, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
And it sat around for, I didn't want to do anything with it first of all, about 6 years. And then I met with Tim and created this book. And when he put it all together and listened to the tapes, because I haven't listened to the tapes still, there was only half a book, 3/4 of a book.
Yeah.
And he said to me, "We need to do some interviews." Interviewed me, found out what happened to me after my dad died. And he went, "That's what the other part of the book's going to be." And they put the two stories together. And I wrote my part in the present tense and my dad's in the present and I'm in the past.
Yeah. What was that like for you then? Because obviously that must be incredibly emotional. You're talking about your dad who, we lost all those years ago, and obviously you're talking about that. You talk about his achievements, and then having to process all that again and go through that yourself. What was that like?
I think it gives you so many different emotions because I'm so proud of my dad.
Yeah.
I mean, I probably get stopped at least once a week.
Yeah. About
him, and I'll talk about his football achievements and him as much as anybody wants. It makes me happy. Yeah. But then you think about the other side of him, my life, my dad, because he was just my dad. And how much I loved him and how much he loved us, and how, he was a great man at home as well. And I think that side of it makes you emotional, and the bit that people don't know, that's the side, and their memories come up, which is a good thing, but it can be damaging as well, I suppose.
Yeah, because he had a reputation, Dad, didn't he, of being a bit of a hard man?
Yeah, he did.
Say the least. And I was chatting to you last week or a few weeks ago, and I was saying I remember going to the cliff. Because back in the day, you used to be able to go to the cliff. Yeah. And you used to be able to walk up to players. And fans now feel sorry because you don't know about it. This is crazy.
Yeah,
Manchester United. Me and my mates used to get free buses actually from Byington to Salford to the cliff. And I remember you'd walk up into the car park or you'd walk to the pitch, watch them train, walk to the car park, and then just chat to them. And I remember seeing your dad. I loved your dad. He's a absolute hero, man. But I was scared because he's like, let's Sealey. And I went over and he was the nicest guy. And he was like, I had a picture of him to sign. I remember him saying it like it was yesterday. This is like 30 odd years ago. And he said, don't we look like villains? And I remember he was saying that and he signed that picture. And it's like, there's that side in the book as well about your dad that people probably don't know because they'll see the guy who's going mad on the pitch when people's trying to take him off because he's injured.
Yeah. I mean, that was a big one, that one with Jim McGregor. Yeah. I mean, I think a lot of people remember that. Yeah, but on the opposite side of him, he didn't. He was quite normal. Yeah. Quite a bit, not a recluse, but he was quite quiet, and he liked cleaning his car, and he used to take cars apart and put them back together at home, and he'd be always laying on the sofa. I didn't realise, this is the truth, when I was a little kid, I never realised that people's dads weren't at home when they got home from school.
Right.
Because he was always indoors by the time I used to get home at 3, 4 o'clock, he'd be home at 1, eating an ham sandwich, smoke a cigar and drink black coffee and Diet Coke. Diet Coke and milk he used to drink together. Get me a Diet Coke and milk.
Do you know what? Hang on a minute. Can we just stop there? Diet Coke and milk together?
That's what he used to drink.
I don't even think I've heard that
It tastes like a Coke float.
Is that a thing?
It was his thing. And I used to think as a kid, but everyone did this. And then I used to go to my mate's house, they could have a Coke and milk, and everyone used to look at me like, what are you doing?
Is that the key to success? That's what makes you a good goalkeeper.
Maybe.
Diet Coke and milk. You just have to give that a go. You spoke about obviously recording these sort of cassette tapes. We've got a clip if we were allowed to play it here. We've got Les Sealey, your dad, obviously talking about his lack of fitness for the cup final. So we're going to play this little clip and have a listen to this.
Are you going to play on this? Play with this? So I trained on a Monday, did a little runabout on a Tuesday, never dived on it. And the first time I actually handled a ball, as I say, in anger on a football pitch and no training at all really, was when we played the game at Feyenoord Stadium. And I was 50% fit, and actually, I mean, I think the gods of, I mean, the only shot I had was Koeman's free kick from 35 yards, 35 yards, which I would have saved with my nose if I'd have been fit, but I just couldn't get across the goal. Just could not make the ground up and just get. I mean, I was literally standing there for 90 minutes. I remember in the first time I came running out to pick a ball up. I never nearly made it because I didn't have no speed. And I think the fella jumped over me. Salinas jumped over the top of me. But I should have beat him to the ball by about 4 yards. And I thought, I've got to be very, very careful here where I come out. I remember thinking it. I'm going to make a complete fuck up here if I come out, because I couldn't come very far. And as the game went on, my knees stiffened up, and virtually the last half. Second half, the order of the second half. I mean, I couldn't kick the ball. I had no muscles left from where I had no muscles from not training for 5 weeks. I was struggling to kick balls, and I think the manager says, Alice Burton says in one of his books, that had it gone to extra time, he'd have took me off. Well, I don't doubt that. I think he would have took me off, and I think again, if we'd have lost the game, I'd have probably got the blame. I'm vilified for. I would have got no. I don't think I'd have got any protection because of. Because I said to him at half time. He said to me at half time in the dressing rooms in the final, "You're kicking shit." And I made the excuse of like, well, it's windy. There's the winds against us. And his words were, "Don't make any excuses. Don't make any fucking excuses." So he wasn't going to contemplate any excuses from anybody, was he? So I went and played the game.
So there's your dad talking about playing through injury. Yeah, certainly did. Yeah. And there's that iconic sort of shot of him refusing to come off, and him saying there, if he hadn't been injured, he probably would have saved Koeman's shot in that final. Yeah. But that's probably, I think, when you talk about your dad, time and time again, I've seen you on socials and I've seen people replying to it, and I saw someone on Twitter replying the same words that I wanted to use, and it was cult hero, because you talk about someone, I think for me a cult hero is someone that you can relate to as a fan. It's almost like you being on that pitch, because your dad felt like that because no matter what he wanted to play.
Yeah, he did, yeah. No, he did. I mean, that people don't realise how bad that injury was. So when that Sheffield Wednesday final, when they stitched him up on the pitch, they stitched dirt in his knee, and he collapsed in the airport after the game. And they said if he would have got on the plane, the best way he would have lost his leg, worst way would have been dead.
Really?
So he played in the game 6 weeks later with an injury that he never nearly played again. after that because of it. So I don't know how he did it to be looking back, and he nearly died. He had blood poisoning. He was in hospital for 2 weeks. And he played in that game. I don't know how he did it.
A lot of people don't realise that.
No.
Because you saw that, the injury at Sheffield Wednesday, the League Cup final.
Yeah.
Obviously, the John Sheridan, was it, the penalty, unfortunately. But you saw that, he didn't want to come off and arguing and all that. And you think, okay, he had an injury, but he could have lost his leg. He could have done that.
Stitched the dirt. It was my dad's fault as well, because he told him to stitch him up on the pitch so he could play on. But they've stitched the dirt in the wound, which was down to his bone.
You don't hear that very often.
No, I don't think it's ever happened again or since.
Stitch me up on a pitch so I can carry on.
You get a kick in the head now and you have to come off.
That's it, do you know what I mean? VAR would have looked into it. You'd have been, the game would have been postponed. You would have been stretching up. You would have been forced to not play for another 3 weeks at least. Yeah. But your dad was just like, stitch me up, wanted to play. And we were just talking off camera, and I was saying to you, my earliest memory as a United fan, and I'm just saying this because I've said this before, was the sort of memory I remember clear was the FA Cup final in 1990. I vaguely remember bits and pieces before that.
I'm like that.
But the first game I can remember almost from start to finish, sort of like it was yesterday, was that game against Crystal Palace for the 3-3. Yeah. It was 3-3 after extra time, because in that game, I remember my dad went to that game, I remember watching it at my auntie's house, and I remember it went back and forth, and I remember Ian Wright scoring those goals coming off Mark Hughes, getting an equaliser, and it finished 3-3. And then for the replay, there was talk of Jim Leighton, what's going to happen with Jim Leighton, because there'd been rumours that he wasn't going to play and that Fergie was going to bring someone else in and bring your dad in. And he did, he brought your dad in. And your dad sort of, became a sort of cool hero straight away, helping us win the FA Cup. But what was that like for you as a kid and learning about that and stuff? Because that's such a unique situation. I don't think that's happened before that I can think of, where a goalkeeper who's basically been a goalkeeper for the entire season and he's one of the manager signings is replaced for the cup final by someone else.
It happened once in the 70s and they lost. I think Brighton did it.
Right.
It changed our lives.
Yeah.
To the point where the fact that I'm sitting here today and I appear on a TV show and I'm here is because of that game.
Yeah.
I have no doubt about that. It completely changed our lives. I mean, people don't realise as well, so he signed for Ferguson 5 times. So he got a loan in the February to March, and he went back. Yeah. And he come back in the May. His loan finished the day of the first cup final.
Yeah.
He weren't there. He was sitting behind the goal with the photographers.
Right.
And then Ferguson, after that game, said, I'm going to extend your loan by 4 days. So I think Ferguson knew that day and extended it again by 4 or 5 days to the replay.
Right.
The whole year before that, he hadn't played a game for Luton, so he fell out with the manager. So he hadn't played at all. Didn't have a club at the end of that season. He's 32 years old. He'd had a nice career in the top level, Coventry and Luton, but nothing outstanding.
Yeah.
Didn't play for England. Yeah. And at 32 years old, he gets a chance to play in the FA Cup final. It completely changed our lives.
And the pressure as well, because you're playing for Manchester United.
Yeah.
It's the FA Cup final. United have gone 5 years without a trophy. Fergie was under pressure. The team finished 13th that season.
Yeah, he was.
Let's not kid ourselves. Fergie was under a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
The sort of pressure that Eric Ten Hag under now, and people forget that. And your dad, who's not played for it, who's just had his loan extended when he's been sat behind the goal and he's, by the way, I'll give you another 4 days. You're thinking, why give me 4 days?
Yeah, true.
He's asked to come into this team against the likes of Ian Wright, Mark Bright, this young good team Palace. Yeah, Jeff Thomas. You had Andy Gray, not the Andy Gray.
Nigel Martin.
That team was, a lot of those players went on to, no disrespect to Crystal Palace, bigger and better things. Yeah. And it was a young team and a vibrant team, and you asked to come into that. And I remember watching that game, watching that replay, and everyone talks about Lee Martin's goal and the pass from Neil Webb. But I remember there was so much scrutiny on your dad.
He made a few good saves as well in that first half. Yeah,
I did. I remember one with his legs.
Free kicks, free come through the wall. Yeah.
I remember that one. And I remember because I think what helped United that day, and it's your dad's aura as well, is he didn't seem fazed. He confidence. He might have been, but the confidence and the sort of, and that's what I think Fergie said with Leighton. He picks up that he looked like he's
I think Ferguson said in his first book that Jim was a better goalie, but Les said he thought he was better, and the team needed that.
Yeah.
And I think that's what he had. And I think at 32, he knew it was he thought probably his career was over.
Yeah.
So he was not going to play in the top league that year, and he's got this chance, and it's happened. And I went to the racing with Ferguson for the first time 2-3 years ago. Right. I was in the same company as him, and somebody introduced me to him and he said, "Oh, you Leslie's son?" I said, "Yeah." He said, and I've never heard it before. He said it to me, "Your dad saved my career." Yeah. And I said, "I think you made these." And that's what I said. And I think that's true. It was a sliding doors moment for two men in the football club.
Yeah.
Because no one would remember Les Sealey without that game.
Do you know what though, Joe?
And Ferguson would have got sacked. So
we wouldn't be sat here.
No, I wouldn't be here.
We wouldn't be sat. And I don't even know if I'd be sat. Of course, I'd still be a Manchester United fan. But would Manchester United have had that success without Sir Alex Ferguson? No. Let's not kid ourselves.
No.
We wouldn't have won 13 Premier League titles with anyone else.
No. Steve Coppell was coming.
Yeah, you know what I mean? No, it wouldn't have happened.
Yeah, it wouldn't have.
Manchester United will always be a huge club, no matter what. But we wouldn't have been the club that dominated.
I think it was destiny.
Yeah.
Yeah,
there is an element of that.
I think there was. I think it was because it would never happen now, would it? A goalie that ain't playing for Luton Town, playing in the cup final for the biggest club in the world.
But that shows not just the ability and the talent of your dad, but also the talent of Sir Alex Ferguson, the genius of him. Because he looked at your dad and went, you know what? I can trust this guy for this game, and he ain't going to let me down. Yeah. And he didn't. Yeah. And like you say, the rest is history. But that's not the end of Les Sealey at Manchester United.
It's not, no.
Because we're going to get to the greatest game in the history of football. You think the FA Cup final was the pinnacle. No, we're just getting started. But before we get into that, right, I've got a little message to give you. Do you want your grooming routine, fellas, to be a one-done deal? Well, thank you to Manscaped, it can be, because you can do your beard and your chin and all that stuff, and you can do below the waist as well, because Manscaped have got you covered for both. They've got the hair trimmer for down below, you've got the weed whacker for your ears and all that stuff, but we're not going to talk about that today. Talk about the Lawnmower 5.0 and the beard trimmer, the beard hedger. Yeah, the beard hedger is what it says on the tin. It hedges your beard. Yeah, it looks after down there. The Lawnmower 5.0, which is the pinnacle of below the waist grooming, looks after down there. And thanks to us and Manscaped, you can get 20% off and free shipping using the code Paddock24. There's a link in the description. Yeah, and when you use the beard hedger, you've got the twin stainless steel T-blade with the 20 length options. Yeah, and don't forget that is titanium coated. And for the Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra, you've got two interchangeable skin-safe blades. You've got everything you can want there, so you don't have to mess about with, I'm going to go and get a razor for this, I'm going to get some scissors for that. No, forget all that. You can get it all in one package, thanks to Manscaped. Use the code Paddock24. You get 20% off, and you get free shipping. Your balls and your beard will thank you. And a big thank you to Manscaped for sponsoring this podcast. Yeah, go and check it out. Right, we were talking about what is, for me, the greatest game ever, the 1991 Cup Winners' Cup final. Obviously, your dad played in that game. We beat the mighty Barcelona, one of the greatest club teams ever. We beat them 2-1. Your dad playing his part, Mark Hughes getting the goals. Now, we're obsessed with this game on the Brews, you know. We talk about it all the time. And a few years ago, I was given the opportunity to interview Sir Alex Ferguson on the red carpet. And when I say I was given a few minutes, I mean a few minutes.
Yeah,
like 2 minutes.
I imagine,
if you count this interview, if you like time it, it's literally about 2 minutes, 30 seconds, right? Okay. And I had one thing in my mind. I was going to ask him about the Cup Winners' Cup final. I remember saying this to Steve, and he was like, yeah, rightly so. And I remember saying it on air, and people going, he won't. Well, I did. And here's what Sir Alex Ferguson, he had to say about that night, about how important that game was. Last week was the 30th anniversary of Rotterdam, Cup Winners' Cup final, and obviously features in the film. What was that like? What was that night like? And how important was that to sort of win that first European trophy?
Well, we're playing Barcelona, of course. You know that you're playing that standard of play, yet a team that you have to perform well. And I thought in the second half we were the better team. The first half, there was nothing happened in the first half. It was a little bit, how would you put it? Trying to find out what was happening in the pitch, but the second half we played really well, and our support was marvellous in that game too. And it was great to. I always remember after the game, and I said it's because we never won the league, and I said, well, if we can win the Cup Winners' Cup, we can win the league. And the next year we were second, unfortunately to Leeds, but it was a step forward.
That little moment there where Sir Alex Ferguson started laughing is probably, and no offence to my kids, the greatest moment of my life.
You might be one of only 10 people that have ever seen it.
When he had that little laugh, I was like, oh my goodness. I was just saying to you then, I was so nervous chatting to him because I'm such, obviously, you know, Sir Alex Ferguson is like a god to me. And, you know, to ask him a few questions was just like a dream come true. And his memory was great, and the way he spoke about it. And he says that, you know, that game was so important, and it was like the catalyst for what United went on to achieve. And what's that like for you when you look at that, when you think about that, and obviously the book and your dad's thoughts on it?
I mean, Rotterdam was just an amazing experience. And again, if you look at the game, obviously you've watched the game. I've watched it back sometimes.
Yeah, I've watched it 3 times this week.
You know, they didn't play. It was windy. It was wet.
Yeah.
Barcelona didn't really create any problems for him. And if you look at how bad the state that knee is for the goal, and especially in the last 10 minutes when he comes out, he gets caught a little bit. How they didn't bombard him, I'll never know. But their goalie was the reserve goalie, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It was his first game for them.
Yeah.
And I think that they concentrated on that. But again, with the iconic white kit in that game and them goals, it was just unbelievable. And they all sit down, didn't they?
Yeah.
So it's just the memory of that game. I think people forget it. Some people forget that game.
It amazes me because I think it's weird because it's sort of sandwiched almost in between 2 eras.
That's probably why.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like it's sort of just before the Premier League. So it's not. I know it's not. It's a European game, but it's before the Champions League. It's when the Champions League became everything.
Yeah.
And I always say, when I talk about the Winners' Cup, people forget, right? There wasn't a Champions League back then. So the reason we played Barcelona in that final was because they'd won their cup, we'd won our cup.
Yeah.
So you had massive teams in that competition.
Yeah.
Because you didn't have the sort of 3 best teams from England, the 3 best teams from Spain and from Italy, all in the Champions League.
It was the first year as well since the ban, wasn't it?
There was the ban, so we had the ban for 4 years, I think it was, or for a bit longer, and then English clubs are let back into Europe. So this is your first year back in Europe, and Manchester United end up in the European Cup Winners' Cup final against Barcelona. That Barcelona team as well, managed by Johan Cruyff.
I know.
Like, they call it the dream team. It was just like, it was like every position, like you mentioned, they had a goalkeeper coming in, but like you had so many superstars in that team, and it's like, wow, we're playing Barcelona.
Yeah.
The pressure's unreal. No one really gave us much of a chance, and yet United, your dad,
did it again
and just defied the odds. I mean, back-to-back seasons for those 2 seasons, it's ridiculous, isn't it? And there's a reason why I remember when I was a kid, every game at Old Trafford, there was a routine where the fans would all chant Sealey when he was the reserve keeper.
He loved it.
And he'd stand up and he'd do that, and I used to live for that. And honestly, it went every game without fail. But your dad as well, he played another final, and this is one that's often forgot. And I know this isn't as happy a memory in terms of result, but he steps up again, was the League Cup final.
Villa.
That was my first final. I went to that game.
Yeah, okay.
Because Schmeichel got sent off against Charlton.
He did.
I think it was, yeah. Came out of his area, handled the ball. Fergie said the referee's got to be embarrassed with his performance, and then the replay showed it was a straight red. There was nothing.
I was there. It was a straight red. I was at the game.
I remember the game,
yeah.
Saying he's got to be embarrassed. And then we played Aston Villa, and to be fair, I think it was one of those because United were on for a domestic treble, which hadn't been done before. Do you know what I mean? Of obviously the League Cup, the FA Cup, and the league, and we won the double.
Yeah.
But this was like the first hurdle, and we just never really got going that game, did we? It was a weird one.
I think he didn't play that well either.
Yeah, well,
I think that a few things happened, and I learned a lot actually when we were doing this. That the last game of the season, Ferguson said to Schmeichel, "I'm going to play Les because he's got to play in the cup."
Yeah.
Schmeichel went, "Nah."
Right.
so Schmeichel played, and my dad hadn't had any games for a long time.
Yeah.
Only reserve games, and he played in that game, and that happened. And then, to be honest, people forget this, and not many people realise it. He dropped him from the FA Cup final. He put Gary Walsh on the bench for the first time that season.
You know what? And I'll be honest with you.
Yeah.
I forgot that.
And then he let him go.
Yeah, and I think that shows as well that Fergie could be hard.
Yeah, no,
because you know what else happened in that game as well, that FA Cup final '94. He dropped your dad, and he dropped Robbo.
Yes, he did.
Yeah,
he did.
He did because I remember Brian Robson. He played in the semi-final replay. He scored, and Robbo was still club captain. Don't forget. And then you can only have 2 subs and a goalkeeper.
Yeah.
And he picked Chocky, and he picked Lee Sharp.
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
And I remember Robbo in his suit walking past us. Just before the game, and Brian Robson, who'd played 600 games for United, scored 100 goals or 99 goals, been the captain Marvel, won everything, and to drop him was like unreal.
It was. Especially if he were in England for 10 years, wasn't it?
Yeah, he was.
Yeah.
But that showed Fergie was no sentiment whatsoever.
Yeah, it's true.
And I think you go back to what we were saying about Jim Leighton. Fergie did what he thought was
He did what he was right for the football club and for
Yeah.
him, which is the right thing to do. And if you look at that decision with Jim, he had Jim from Aberdeen. So
Yeah.
he had Jim for nearly 10 years as his number one.
Yeah.
And they never spoke again.
That's
You know what I mean?
deep.
But that desire to win
Yeah.
is what you need at football clubs. If you want to be successful in, not so much as, but in football,
Yeah.
there is no one remembers the losers, do they?
No. Is it true your dad offered Jim Leighton his medal?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he didn't get his medal. My dad give it to Bobby Charlton after the game. Give it to Jim. Jim said no. Give it to Bobby Charlton. Said give it to him. And then because my dad was on loan for 4 days, my dad didn't go back to Manchester. We lived in Chingford, which is about 6 miles from Wembley.
Right.
He came back to Chingford. So he actually went to a pub quiz night. It was a police club quiz night when the bus was going around with the trophy on the telly.
Right.
And he was at the because he wasn't a Man United player then.
So he didn't even get to say.
No,
I didn't
and
realise
then
that.
when Ferguson met him in the hotel at Heathrow, about 2-3 weeks later, he gave him his medal, and then my dad got a Hero of the Year award from Margaret Thatcher for it, and the person before him had lost his legs in like the Falklands War or something, and then my dad had to get up at Buckingham Palace and pick up an Heroes award from Margaret Thatcher. So it's the most embarrassing thing of his life. Everyone else had been like, things in wars like save kids, stopped muggings and people got shot, and then he tried to give Jim Leighton his medal when he got a Hero of the War.
Well,
the Prime Minister.
So it's one of the few things that I agree with Margaret Thatcher about, to be honest with you. Loads of people in the comments. So I've not been reading them out because,
all right.
Brian Casey's saying he's completely starstruck. I think that's a reference to talk about
Me?
Brian Casey also says not everyone can do it on a cold, wet, and windy night in Rotterdam. That's true. I just want to mention that as well because Brian McClare played in that game. We've had Chucky. He's a good pal of mine. Brian McClare. Chucky's he's ace and been fortunate enough over the last few years. I knew him before I started doing this. I've known him a little while. He's been on this channel and we've done events and spent a bit of time together. And he thought the world he'd had, didn't he?
I think they all did. I think that group had such a close knit. I mean, my dad weren't one for keeping in contact with people. I mean, people don't realise Jim Leighton covered his coffin.
Right.
They become really good friends. But Steve Bruce, I still speak to Steve.
Yeah.
I still speak to Paul Ince, Paul Parker. I know he was here after. Gary Pallister, and the other 20 years of my dad's career. Don't think he spoke to anyone. So I think that thing of winning and that I think United had that for, let's hope we get back that unity where you don't get beat.
Yeah.
I think Ferguson had the same when don't effing lose.
Yeah.
I think half time a lot, and you heard it in that clip where my dad's kicking in that game was not the best because of the wind.
Right.
And no excuses.
Yeah.
Said to him at half time, stop giving me excuses.
Whenever you read like your dad's book or anyone's book, Gary Neville's or whoever's played for Fergie, and you realise how much pressure he could put on players. Like when he'd say things to players like, you fucking play like that again in the second half, you'll cost us a title. Yeah. And
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There was none of this. Like, I mean, Fergie, don't get me wrong, he could be a different man, it's different people. It was not like a lot of the time, when arm around the shoulder, it was, look, you play for Manchester United, you can cost me this game. And let you know. And players like that obviously were able to step up to that because some people couldn't, and those are usually the ones that don't end up playing for Manchester United and winning trophies.
Maybe that's the difference, and maybe that's winners, because I think that apart from like the 2 or 3, like Lee Eriksson and all that ain't going to get that treatment. The other ones, he got the best out of you by doing whatever. Because I learned so much from this that like there was a period in the 1990-91 season when my dad was obviously playing every week. I think he had a bad period of three games.
Yeah.
He let a bad goal in, and Ferguson walked in and he went again, and you're gone.
Really? Yeah.
And then it's like sort yourself out or you're gone. Do you know what I mean? Because I'll survive longer than you. Do you know what I mean? And I think you have to respect that.
Yeah.
I respect it massively.
I think Fergie knew as well the players that could take that and step up. And that's the players he got. Those are the players that ended up playing, with the important matches and playing those.
He wanted that character, didn't he?
Yeah, because if you couldn't act it like that, then you weren't going to make it at Manchester United. You weren't going to go up against the Barcelonas of this world and win league titles. Because you don't forget, Fergie's come in there. People often forget this with United and what Fergie came into. United hadn't won a title since 1967. There was, an Asian team, and I know we'd won some trophies under Ron Atkinson, but there was a drinking culture. The pressure was on Fergie almost from the get-go. And then he gets to this stage 3 years in where, the fans are like, what's going on here? You know what I mean? And you had to deliver. And obviously he did. I'm going to go into some comments and then we'll chat a little bit more. Manners says, Les Sealey, what a legend. Phelps Travel Vlog says, Joe, your old man was a legend. He loved saluting the Stretford end when he played for us. Heaven Soul says, Fergie knew exactly whether it was an arm round the shoulder or a bollocking, which they needed. Stu Nick says, turning the big 30 tomorrow, need a big win to start the day. We'll get into a little bit about the Southampton game. I wanted to ask you something. Do you ever see the Steve Bruce captain's log thing?
Yeah.
Your dad's very funny in that. I mean, it's a laugh.
Yeah,
you see where he says about him going up to pick up the trophy, and he's like, I ain't gonna get a fucking medal. That's the problem. So I got a problem. I said, I got a fucking problem. We're gonna get a medal.
Yeah,
yeah, because it's mad because that's sort of the life of a backup goalkeeper, because you're not playing those games. You're not getting.
You didn't get the medals.
You don't get the medals. So
no.
even though you've got to train, you've got to be ready.
Yeah.
You've got to you've got to be sort of. Any moment, like in the League Cup final, where you might get called upon. I think your dad's case, FA Cup final. But when it comes to actually getting the medals, because you don't get enough minutes.
I think back then it was the 2 times they won the Premier League when he was here. You had to play 10 games. I think.
Yeah, that's right.
And he was on the bench every week, and he never got the medals. But I don't think he cared.
No,
I don't think he cared, because you got to think at that time he's 35.
Yeah.
I mean, the career he had between 32 and 36 is unbelievable at that part of his career, and I think he was so enthusiastic. He loved this football club.
Yeah.
He loved this football club. He's from London, and he got brought up as a West Ham supporter because his cousin played for West Ham, Alan Sealey. And I would say, I never asked him, but I would say when he died, he was a Man United supporter.
Really?
Yeah, I would. Yeah.
Because anyone who watched, let's say, absolutely loved him. Yeah. He's, we use the word cult here and a little bit too much, but he was, and it's the type of player that the fans love for a reason, because you just like. They'll do anything for the club. They'll do anything for the team. Your dad nearly lost his leg.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because he didn't want to come off the pitch because he wanted to help Manchester United win a football match. And I don't want to be, over dramatic, but at times that's what we've been lacking. Not people who lose a leg, but people who perhaps don't show that little bit of edge that we need at times. And let's always show that. When Peter Schmeichel came in, how do you think that was for him? Because in many ways, it's sort of. There must be an element of, you can't really argue with someone who's coming in who's got this reputation, and obviously Peter Schmeichel went on and won in his first season United, I think he won the Euros with Denmark as well.
He did, yeah.
And obviously showed what he was about and went on to have such a good career as well. Do you think that made it easier or harder for your dad? Because
he left.
Yeah.
He went to Villa, so he didn't get another he offered him half the money, but during that season.
Because how many seasons was he?
He was there 18 months the first time.
Yeah.
Then he went to Villa.
Right.
Come back for another 2 years because Ferguson thought the year before they didn't win it, thought he was lucky. That's why he brought him back.
Right.
But during that season when he was playing, and I didn't know this, it's in here. I learned that he sent him to Denmark to watch him.
Really?
He went and watched him and said sign him. Now let's be honest. For me, he's the best goalie ever.
Right.
Peter Schmeichel, in my opinion. I know people don't always agree with that, but I can't think of anything.
I don't know what you mean, Joe. I've never criticised Peter Schmeichel. If he wants to cartwheel past United fans in Main Road, that's up to him.
That bit was a bit iffy, but before that,
I'm not going to hold it against him.
As a goalie, the greatest goalie I've ever seen.
Listen, Van der Sar for me, but I get your point.
Okay.
I get your point.
Yeah.
He's a very good goalkeeper. But that's a strange scenario to be in. Like saying to you that, go and watch him in Denmark.
Yeah.
Basically, go and have a look.
Yeah, because back then as well, they had no goalie coaches. They didn't, probably scouts, and I think he did it because he was told to do it, and Ferguson tells you to do it, you do it.
Yeah.
I think that was my dad's attitude. When I was growing up playing football, I was always told by my dad, if the manager tells you to do it, you do it.
Yeah.
Don't argue, you do it. And I think that was it. And I think my dad thought at the time he was going to stay for another year after the Cup Winners' Cup, but he didn't. He had a contract offer, but it was lower than what he was on.
Really?
Yeah. And then Ron Atkinson came in and he went to Villa. Which I think he regretted.
Really?
Yeah, I think he regretted. I think the day he walked back into this football, because he was at home, because he got sent off. He got sent off for Villa after a game. He's the first player ever to be sent off after a football match, and he attacked a linesman. Could he give a goal that didn't go over the line?
He did what?
He attacked the linesman after the game in the tunnel because he gave a goal that didn't go over the line. So
different times then, boys.
I think Doug Ellis had told him
simpler times.
I think the manager had been told by Doug Ellis that he'd never play for this football club again, and then Ferguson rang our house phone, and I was sitting in. I was a kid, but I was sitting there. So the phone rings and it's like normally talking the telly's on, but it's like everything on. But I can hear him saying "gaffer." There's only a few times in my life I remember him saying that. And getting that call, and then him immediately jumping in the car because we were in London, living in London still, and he jumped in the car and didn't see him again. No, then we moved, and then that was us up the motorway.
That was it. Yeah.
That was us. I think probably the happiest moment of his life and career again, because he got to experience. We all got to experience it. I got to experience a team that were unbeatable.
Yeah.
That had phenomenal players that were winning every week, and the noise in that stadium at that point. I mean, I remember the first year he was there, coming from Luton, and I'd been going to Luton every week, and sitting in that stadium as a 7-year-old, 8-year-old, deafened by the noise. I loved it.
It was amazing. I mean, it was obviously amazing for you watching your dad in that scene. But I remember the 90s, the early 90s when I was a kid, because we were a similar age, and I just started going without my dad at the time. I used to go with my dad. He used to take me now and again. Only midweek. He wouldn't take me on the weekend. It was too rough, he said. Too much kicking off.
Yeah.
But when in the 80s, he used to take me in the midweek now and again, and I used to love it. And we used to live in Stretford.
Yeah.
And we lived probably about 10-15 minute walk away from the ground, and you could hear the roar. You could hear the crowd, when United were playing.
Yeah.
You know about it. I remember just loving it. I used to go there and loving it. And that team as well, because, look at football now, and I know it's all players. There's this argument that players are technically better than they were. But I think back in those days, the challenges that you had, the stuff. I mean, some of the challenges went on your dad that he would have. Now, that'd be a red card for the striker.
Oh, yeah.
VAR be coming on, but getting involved. The keepers are so protected. Back in those days, your dad's getting kicked from pillar to post, isn't it?
Yeah. My dad used to wear rugby studs. So he used to say to me, because I used to sometimes do them for him, take my studs out, Vaseline the holes, and put Puma King, and then put the metal rugby studs in, because if I kick someone, I'm going to hurt them. Because it's me or them. That's what it was like. And it was like, if you can get the striker taken off or sent off, get him off.
Yeah.
But it's changed rapidly, quickly, football, innit? I mean, but if you look back then, even the top teams, the pitches they played on, them players, you put them on today's pitches with today's equipment, what would they be like?
That's what I always say. That's the argument I was having.
Could you put these players on them bad pitches with that equipment? I don't know if you could.
You watch the footage, and I remember at Old Trafford, United are like the biggest club in the country, one of the biggest clubs in the world. You look at the pitch we were playing on. It's like my son's 9 and he plays on better pitches than Manchester United used to play on. Serious, I'm not exaggerating. Go and watch it. Look at the challenges that are flying in. Look at how you'll see. We've had Chucky on. You remember the brawl against Arsenal?
Oh, it was unbelievable.
Yeah, 21-man brawl. I think it was only John Lukic who didn't get involved.
That was it.
Yeah, he stayed in his goal. Bless him. And Chucky tells me that, and he tells me about punching Nigel Winterburn. He tells me about Dennis Irwin kicking lumps out of someone who's on the floor. He tells me about, I think, David Rocastle and someone else going toe-to-toe. Yeah. And he says at the end of it all, after this 21-man brawl, one player got booked. I think that was it. I think Nigel Winterburn got booked.
That was it, yeah.
He said, Chucky said, I was waiting for my red card, it never came. And it was like, I know that's a bit of an extreme, and both clubs had, United had a point deducted and Arsenal had 2, because it was, the DFA were like... Yeah. You can't be doing this in the middle of a football match. But it was mad what went on, and then the players that were able to play for that, like you say, if you put them in matches now, it'd be completely different. I want to talk a little bit about yourself then. So you're part of the Cheshire Elite, aren't you? You live in Cheshire, on the Real Housewives of Cheshire. What's that like, Joe? Because that must be a weird experience, being on a show like that and having the sort of coming from the background you have, and your dad being so well known as this cult hero and this hard man, and you're in Real Housewives of Cheshire.
I'm floating about like doing and like doing like mud baths and all that on there with my missus. Yeah, I know what you mean. It's not really. I wonder what my brother said a little while ago to my mum. I wonder what Dad would think of it, because he was quite private. My dad, I think he'd be like, "You ain't doing that." I'm 40. I'm 41 years old, and I started doing it. And I bet if he was alive, he would have said to me, "You ain't doing that."
Really?
Yeah.
Do you reckon?
Yeah. I think he would have, yeah.
Yeah. What's it been like for you though? Because I love it. Yeah, and it's a massive show. It's like my missus watching. Loads of people. Ethan doesn't stop watching it. Producer Ethan. Loads of people watching.
He had a picture of me when I walked in.
Yeah, he did. He was like, he couldn't believe you were coming in. But what's it like, man? It must be a bit surreal. Yes. Or are you just used to it now? You've been doing it for so long.
I'm a bit used to it now, but first of all, it is a bit weird because you'll be talking like this and there's a camera there, or you're doing normal stuff and there's cameras and you start looking and go, no, don't look at the camera, and you've got to pretend it's not there. And it doesn't rain. Right. So Cheshire don't rain when we film.
Yeah, I've noticed.
So it's always sunny. We've got to wear bright clothes, but it's different for the men and the women. I come on, I do, if they want someone to do something stupid, take their clothes off, that's me.
Right, okay.
Because I think you only live once. I'm only here to, I'm going to have a good time doing it, and I'm going to have a laugh. There's nothing they found yet that I won't do. But I haven't got to do all the arguing. My wife does. I just go, I'm not arguing. It's not my job to argue with women. Do you know what I mean?
Whenever I've watched it, there does seem to be a lot of arguing going on. It's like, do you know what I mean? You just stay out of that though.
I don't get chatting.
Do you not get marved off your missus? Like,
I was chewing my ear off.
Why don't you stick up for me? I always get that.
I get that sometimes, and then what she'll say to me is, "You stick up for them more than me." But what I'm actually trying to do is settle her down. Do you know what I mean? And, I said, "What do you want me to do? Like, scream at, throw a drink on another woman?" Like, no, I'm not doing that. Because I'll tell you what was good advice. The first week I did it, it was Ashley Wald. Dong was on it at the time, and Ashley Wald, the player, was on it. And the women were over there arguing, and the men were over there just sitting down having a coffee, or they was having a drink. I don't drink, so I was having a Diet Coke. And I went, one of them was crying, and the husband went, is it she all right? He went, don't worry about that. Don't get involved in that. She'll be all right. And I went, all right. And I've stuck to that for the last 6 years.
That's good advice, man. Do you know what I mean? Stay out if you can, but sometimes you might get, bit of earache for not joining in. Brian Casey says here, Les Sealey was part of the team that came to play, that came over to Ireland for pre-season in 1990 to play Waterford. Yeah. Was my first time seeing United and was hooked immediately.
I was there.
Really?
I went with Paddy McCarran on holiday, and believe it or not, my son played for Waterford 2 years ago.
Really?
So that's an unusual sort of thing, yeah. But I went to that. We went for a week. We stayed there for a week.
Really?
Yeah. Me and my mum, Paddy McCarran and his wife, and my brother.
Yeah.
In the area. I didn't realise it was Waterford. But I went to that trip. But yeah, I remember it.
That's mad, isn't it? Yeah.
It was just after the 1990 World Cup, because it was the first time I remember a World Cup as well.
Oh yeah, that's the first World Cup. I remember. 86. I was a bit too young for it. I just remember everyone banging on about Maradona's hand of God. Andy Moore says, I was 20 in 1991 and went ballistic when we won the Cup Winners' Cup. English teams were banned in 95 once again. United were the first team to win a European trophy. Such a big game that, wasn't it, for a multitude of reasons. And I think there was this whole thing about English teams back in Europe, and not just off the pitch, are they going to behave themselves, but can they perform at this level? And United and your dad and the rest of the team certainly showed that. I don't want to lower the mood, because we've had a good laugh here, me and you, Joe, and it's been all right, hasn't it? But forgive me, because this is the Brew. We don't usually do this, but we will talk briefly about modern day Manchester United. Big game tomorrow at Southampton, innit? I mean,
got to win, haven't we?
Yeah. What do you make of Eric Ten Hag and what's going on? Do you have faith that he can turn this around? I know it sounds a bit dramatic, say turn it around 3 games in, but it's where we're at.
I'm not one that thinks change the manager.
Right.
I think we've got a lot of issues going back a long time now, and I think it doesn't take a year or 6 months or a new management team above to change it quickly. I think it's going to take time. I think that we're competing with clubs now that will spend more than us. They've got better facilities than us, and at the moment a better stadium, unfortunately.
Yeah.
I know we're going to have a better one, but the quicker we get that infrastructure to get them players in, the better. But I think changing the manager, I don't know what a different manager does with what we've got. Listen, I haven't agreed with all the signings, and whether he's made them or not is another thing. I wouldn't have I wouldn't have changed the goalie. But
I was going to ask you about that, about Onana. As someone who's obviously watched goalkeepers with a bit of a more astute eye than the rest of us. What have you made of that? Because De Gea, I'm not going to lie to you, his last season, I thought he was a bit all over the gaff at times. You go back to the FA Cup final, I thought it doesn't look like the De Gea that we've known, and maybe a few others as well. But Onana came in with this reputation. I saw him at Inter, did very well in the in that cup, the European Cup. Then the Champions League run to the final, he did well against City in the final and only lost. But what have you made of that change? Do you think it's been a step back, or?
It's hard, isn't it, to be critical of anyone when they're top of the game. But I don't think he's as good as De Gea.
Right, fair enough.
And the reason I think this, and I mean, it hasn't been a long enough time, but I look at it like, when do I remember a game when I think he won that game?
Yeah.
Or top goalies make saves that no one else can make, and I don't see that when I watch it. I see things come off him, and I say, listen, we're getting bombarded a lot, and he ain't got the best lot in front of him, and he's getting more pressure. But the top end, which we should have, stop that. And I don't care whether a goalie can distribute the ball 60 yards. I care if the goalie starts to ball it in the back of the net.
Yeah.
For me, and that comes second, distribution. I would have kept De Gea, and if it weren't De Gea, I would have paid Dean Henderson.
Yeah.
Because I think when he had a chance, listen, I don't know Dean Henderson, but I've heard he's not easy. He's not an easy person.
He came across a bit poorly in that interview, did he?
Yeah, he did.
When he was like,
He done some no favours.
I'd love to beat United, and the way I've got treated was criminal. And,
Yeah.
And I thought it was a little bit much.
I think it was a disgrace. I think you should leave this club and respect the club.
Yeah.
He got given a chance.
Yeah.
But for me and Onana, I mean, I look at it, and I don't want to say this either. I look at it, the team we're playing, and I think I like their goalie more.
Right. Okay.
So I go Ramsdale. I wanted him.
Yeah.
Come here. I would have had Ramsdale. Yeah. I know he's liable a bit to make a mistake in the last 10 minutes of games, but for me, he's a stronger keeper. I can remember him making saves that I thought, God, he won that game. Listen, but he ain't the weakest point in that team. Or what we need. We definitely need stronger midfield, and we need to stop the ball coming through.
Yeah.
You know, I think there's multiples of issues for me. I think we play with, when I watch it, we play with a big man up front, but inverted wingers. So that big striker never gets across.
That's it, because everyone's trying to, whether it's Garnacho, whether it's Rashford, whether it's Anthony when he used to play, I know he's not played, he's just trying to get the shot off. That seems to be the main sort of goal that they've got. Here's an interesting, really insightful and a really good footballing question here from Red Lad. Did Joe really get his chopper out on that balcony?
Yeah. When I had the Maltese flag wrapped around me first, though. It's seamless. That was seamless.
This is a sort of thing we used to on
but I did it to the other wife, so that was Seema's dream.
Right, okay, there you go. So I'm glad we cleared that one up, because that's the burning question a lot of us have had.
I'm not allowed back in Malta, by the way.
Right, you're banned from Malta?
Yeah, I've got a letter. Had some Maltese flag, that's right.
Right, okay, well there you go. He was covering his modesty there. Akash K says the game has gone when you want keepers to be good with your feet. FFS. It's true, and it's like, you know, there's this sort of change now in it where keepers have got to be like a sweeper, and they've got to be doing all this, and that was one of the reasons that we hear that Onana was brought in, because he was so good with his feet. But you do want your goalkeeper to make saves as well. And I've said this a few times. I'm not just saying it to sort of agree with you, because I have backed Onana. I've said, you know, I rate him, but I'm concerned because I'm seeing a player now who, in his first season, at the beginning of his first season, he was all over the gaff, especially in Europe. He got better. And then this season, he's been a bit erratic again, and you need to see him kicking on. Yeah, that's my concern.
Yeah, for me, I don't think he comes to crosses, right? Well, he doesn't. I don't think he comes and gets the ball quick enough. So I want a goalie that's dominating that 18-yard box is like that goalie's area. You do not come in it, and if you come in it, I'm going to destroy you, and I'm going to get everything. Yeah, that's what I want, and I want to see saves. Distribution is important, but it ain't as important as clean sheets. That's my opinion. Listen, I think De Gea had one more year in him. I mean, he was fantastic last week, apparently, for Fiorentina. But
he's I think he had the first game. There was like he was getting a bit of stick, but then the next game he's sort of come back to his own. And listen, we knew what De Gea was about. Yeah,
he needed reply. Look, it was coming time. But is this guy the right answer? But again,
it's a good point now. You know, that's one thing that annoys me as well, Joe. When we have this discussion, is sometimes people make it was either Onana or De Gea, and that was it. There is other goalkeepers, and you might not rate Onana, that's fine, and you might not rate. We could have got someone else. We sort of go down this rabbit hole almost of it's like it's one or the other, and those were the only two keepers in the world who were available. And I think that Akash K says Joe is spot on. Santa Notch has got a question for you, Joe. How did your dad take to the change in the pass back rule? Do you know about that one?
Yeah, I do remember it. He was not bad with his feet, to be fair.
Yeah.
I played at West Ham, so that was coming in as I was coming through, and we did a lot. He was the coach then. We did a lot of coaching on it. Yeah, it was a completely different change. Yeah, but I think it suited him because he was a goalie that he was quite quick, so he got around the box. Yeah, he was fine with his feet. He did a lot of work on it. He never played in goal till he was 16.
Really?
He was an outfield player. He played for Barnet up front.
So he's a striker.
He played for. This is the truth. This is God's honest truth. He played for the school. Out front, he played for Barnet. Goldie didn't turn up. He played in goal. Coventry City were there and scouted him. He played in goal once and got scouted, and then got an apprenticeship at Coventry. That's what happened.
Isn't it mad?
Yeah.
Sliding door. You talk about sliding door moments.
Yeah.
Think of the thread we're going back to and everything that's happened and how important your dad was in sort of the history of United and Fergie and everything that went on. And there's that one game where he's a striker and he goes in goal, and there's a Coventry scout there, and he has a good enough game for the scout to go.
That was his first ever game.
You said he was he coached when you was playing? Did he coach you?
At West Ham, yeah.
What was that like?
Not easy. Not easy. We had a conversation when I started getting picked up when I was about 12, 13. Like,
Yeah.
Is this something you want to do?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's what I want to do. Well, do you want me to help you or not? If I help you, it's like, I ain't your dad.
Right,
At football.
Yeah.
I'm your dad at home. We don't bring it home, but at football. And I see people now that I played with and they go, I always knew when you because you'd coach us as a group of goalies, when it was you in goal when you was about 14, because everyone else you did a kick of the ball and then you'd get it and it'd go bang. Because he'd smash it at me as hard as he could.
Really?
Yeah, I think, you know, I got a chance when I was 14 to go to Lillishall, to go into the time you went and lived there, the residency thing.
Yeah.
And I went there and I left because there was no goalkeeper coach. And I thought, I've got a goalkeeper coach at home. You know?
Yeah, not a bad one either.
Sitting on the sofa.
Do you know what I mean?
So I'll go there, and I never went. I left the scheme because of it.
Really?
Yeah.
They didn't have a goal. Why though?
They never had it. We never had them.
So
when my dad started goalkeeper coach,
we're not talking about ancient history there. You're not 80 years old.
96 that was.
I didn't have a goalkeeper coach.
No, 96. So when my dad would become the goalkeeper coach at West Ham, he coached from first team all the way down to under 6. So he'd be there all day with the main goalies and then train the kids at night. There was only one.
Right.
And he did them all. 2 Tuesdays and Thursday nights it was.
Did he enjoy that?
He loved it. He loved football. The thing with my dad, and I think this is where he got to, he loved football. He played football anywhere, at any time, even you know, the day he died. He loved it.
Yeah.
You know, it affected him. You know, he was full of it. He loved it. He absolutely loved it. And he loved Man United.
And Man United fans loved him. They really did. Joe, it's been a pleasure this. Chatting about your dad, chatting about everything, chatting about you getting your chopper out in a balcony with Malta, which I didn't see that one coming. This book, can people still go and get this? Can you grab it?
Yeah,
on Amazon and everything?
Still go and get it, yeah.
On days like this, The Lost Memoir of a Goalkeeper, Tim Rich. But don't forget, this is Les Sealey in his own words as well, from tapes that he recorded. So it's been put together, and obviously there's bits about Joe there as well, which forms a big part of the book. So go and check that out. And we'll have to get you on again, man. When Steve's recovered from his man flu, because he's gutted.
Whenever you want. I'll take over. Get rid of him.
Sound.
I'm after cost.
Done. Right, there you go. That's that done. That wasn't a lot. Yeah, that's it. Cheers, Steve. Thanks for coming. It used to be Alson's Brew, now it's Sealey's Brew. Yeah, go and get that book if you can. Go and check it out. Big thank you to Manscaped as well, sponsors. Go. I don't know. You don't need a plug. You know where to find him. That's been Joe Sealey. I've been Jay Motti. This has been The Brew. Thanks for watching.
Thank you very much.